Ready? Well, good morning, everyone. The city's solid waste management plan, as you know, what we launched back in '06, included a commitment to dramatically increase recycling. And that plan sets us on course to double New York's recycling rate to 30% by the year 2017, and that would reduce the amount of waste going to landfills by 30% as well. Now, reaching those goals will save city taxpayers at least $60 million a year, in large part because it's cheaper to recycle than to ship waste to landfills. It will also have a big environmental impact since it requires far less energy to produce items from recycled materials than from raw materials. In the case of plastic, that's something like 70% less energy used. This April, we took a major step forward, launching the largest expansion of the city's recycling program since Mayor Koch first introduced curbside recycling over 25 years ago. And for the first time, New Yorkers can now recycle all rigid plastics. And by all, I mean all. You can forget about those crazy, hard-to-read numbers that I could never figure out on the bottom of plastic containers. That's all gone. You don't have to worry about it. Cups, bottles, food containers, compact disc cases, just recycle them. And remember to recycle all of your paper, metal, and glass as well. Now today, to help spread the word, we're launching a dynamic new ad campaign with a tagline that sums up nicely how far we've come. Recycle everything. That's the tagline, recycle everything. Like the new plastic recycling rules, the message couldn't be simpler, and the campaign features some great artwork, which you can see here on these posters behind me. These ads will appear in newspapers, bus stations, newsstands, taxis, and other places around the city. Now, by recycling all rigid plastics, we'll keep about 50,000 tons of plastic out of our landfills every year and save taxpayers about $600,000 annually on export costs. But rigid plastics is not the only major recycling frontier we're tackling. Last September, if you remember, we launched an organic waste collection pilot program in over 90 public schools in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island. And this spring, we expanded the pilot to include household organics recycling in westerly Staten Island and a small number of high-rise Manhattan buildings elsewhere, high-rise residential buildings elsewhere, including here at Morningside Gardens. And these programs, I'm happy to say, have been a very big success. In Westerly, more than 50% of households have already participated, and here in Morningside Gardens, the total weight of trash has plummeted by 35%. Because yes, it is wonderful. It really is working. Nobody thought it would, but it does. Because the program's been so successful, we're expanding it, first beginning this September in parts of Windsor Terrace in Brooklyn and Throgs Neck in the Bronx. And if you live in one of those neighborhoods, you will receive a mailer from the Department of Sanitation with easy-to-understand information about organic collection. Sanitation will provide small bins for household collection and larger bins for building-wide collection. And like the current pilot program in Staten Island and here at Morningside Gardens, participation is voluntary, but highly recommended and very easy. Sanitation will again expand the program to additional neighborhoods around the city in the spring of 2014, and by then we expect it to reach more than 100,000 residents, or about 25,000 in each of the 4 boroughs we're doing it. By 2015, Sanitation will also expand its organic collection program to every public school in the city. Sanitation also has a food scrap collection program at 29 green markets in all 5 boroughs in partnership with Grow NYC, the nonprofit that runs our farmers markets. The Green Market program alone, you should know, is on track to divert well over 1 million pounds of food scraps from our landfills this year alone. In total, organic waste and recyclable metal, glass, plastic, and paper account for 70% of our waste stream. So these new initiatives are going to take a big bite out of our landfills. And we're also launching new efforts to recycle or reuse the other 30% or so of city waste as well. For instance, this year we launched Refraction NYC, a used clothing and textile recycling service that has already diverted over 1 million pounds from landfills. Refashion NYC. And in September, we're starting eCycle, which will be the largest electronic waste and recycling service in North America, fully funded by the electronics industry. And we've organized safe disposal events for getting rid of hazardous household waste. To find out more about any of these programs and how your home or building can get involved, all you have to do is go to nyc.gov. Now, before hearing from our other speakers, I would like to thank Lynn Cole, who is Deputy Mayor Kaz Holloway's Chief of Staff and who managed the creative campaign, and Ron Gonen, Sanitation's first Deputy Commissioner for Sustainability, whose creativity is helping us achieve our ambitious recycling goals. So now let's hear from some other speakers, beginning with Deputy Mayor for Operations, Kaz Holloway. Kaz?
Thanks, Mayor. And good morning, everybody. When it comes to recycling, New York City has come a long way in the last 12 years. After 9/11, we had to temporarily suspend the program because of the dire fiscal situation we confronted. Now, in less than a year, we restarted picking up curbside waste, and in 2006, Speaker Quinn and the City Council passed the Mayor's visionary solid waste management plan. Most people know that the plan will ensure that all boroughs share in the burden of dealing with solid waste, and by investing in new marine transfer stations, we're taking thousands of trucks and millions of truck miles off city streets. Less well known is the fact that embedded in that plan was a major commitment to expanding the city's recycling program. A few weeks ago, the mayor announced the largest expansion of recycling in 25 years. Now New Yorkers can recycle all rigid plastics, not just plastic bottles. And that's because we invested in a state-of-the-art recycling facility in South Brooklyn that can sort all of that material. And thanks to the vision of John Doherty and his Deputy Commissioner of Sustainability, Ron Gonen, we're boldly going where just a few years ago, and even a few months ago for some of you, no one thought we could. Recycling food waste and other organic material that makes up 35% of our waste stream. So we may have gotten off to a slow start, but Mayor Bloomberg has committed New York City to recycling for the long term, and that's good, because recycling saves money, which means it's good for the environment and your pocketbook. Recycle Everything is a simple articulation of our aspirations as a city and a statement of how far we've come. The fact is that most things are recyclable or can be bought in a recyclable form. I want to thank Commissioner Doherty, the great team, and especially my Chief of Staff, Lynn Cole, who worked tirelessly on this campaign. Thank you very much.
Kaz, thank you. Next, our Commissioner for the Department of Sanitation, John Doherty. John?
Thank you, Mayor. I think as the Mayor pointed out and Kaz Holloway pointed out a minute ago, the key word is everything is recyclable, and particularly with the plastic. Now, there's no questions that people have to ask anymore about what they can recycle when it comes to plastic. Put it in the recycling bin, we're going to pick it up, and it's going to get recycled, and that's important. And I want to thank everybody that's in this room that happens to live in these buildings here for what they've accomplished so far with the food waste program. Now, this is not the easiest program when it comes to recycling, believe me, and so much of it is based on what you do, the people of New York City do, when it comes to food waste or any of the recycling. We can do about maybe 15% of the work by giving you cans and carts and information about it, but the people of New York City, and the people in this building in particular, and these buildings, have to play their role in it. Without their help, we'll never make it. And you do 85% of the work by sorting it out, keeping it, putting it in the carts. We only pick it up and make sure it's composted. So thank you very much. And I want to thank Ron Goen, the Deputy Commissioner for Sustainability, and his staff for what they've done over the past year in improving recycling and getting the word out. I mean, I don't think people have heard in this city so much about recycling than you've heard in the last couple of months, basically the last 6 months. So it's a growing program, some we all have to work on together to make it work. Thank you.
John, thank you. The excellent creative work on our new recycling ad campaign was done by Gray Group, and I would like to invite Claudia Strauss, CEO of Gray Activation and PR, to say a few words. Claudia?
Thank you so much. From our perspective, there's never been a more rewarding campaign for us to work on. We've been citizens of New York for 100 years. Gray has been headquartered here, and it's rare for us to get an opportunity to really make a difference to the city that we actually work and live in every day. So we thank you, all of you, for the opportunity to have worked on a campaign that will make a measurable difference in terms of our city moving forward. I want to thank the incredible creative team who is here, who's really done all of the heavy lifting to come up with this campaign that we believe really taps into the to insights about New Yorkers who are creative and who do understand how to recycle, whether it's a storefront or a T-shirt. New Yorkers are ready to recycle everything, and here's the work to prove it. Also, thank you to all of the brands who participated willingly. Many brands just lined up immediately because we are not the only ones that understand the importance of a recycling initiative in a city like New York. So thank you to all of the brands. Thank you to the city for partnering with us on this incredible campaign. We couldn't be more proud to be here today to announce this. Thank you.
Claudia, thank you and congratulations. Marcel Van Ooyen is the Executive Director of Grow NYC. Marcel, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, my name is Marcel Van Ooyen, the Executive Director of Grow NYC. We're a nonprofit that partners with the Department of Sanitation to help educate New Yorkers about how to recycle better. And I want to congratulate the mayor and his staff for this massive expansion of recycling in New York City, the biggest since 1989 when the program was created. It all came out of the mayor's landmark solid waste management plan, which also created the Office of Recycling Outreach and Education, which my wonderful staff help New Yorkers around the city learn how to recycle and recycle better. This Morningside Gardens is a perfect example of how the Department of Sanitation and our office works together. The folks at Morningside Gardens who were dropping off food scraps at one of our green markets in Columbia approached the staff and said, hey, we want to get involved in the organics program that the city's rolling out, and can we do that? Our staff met with them, brought in the Department of Sanitation, had a bunch of wonderful meetings with the staff here, and the program was what was born. So the fruits of or in this case, the fruit scraps of the labor, it's a horrible pun. I knew you would appreciate that.
Nothing wrong with a good pun.
I read the New York Times article. So we were very excited that this program got launched and that all the wonderful staff here. I want to thank Russell Germain from the general manager, Larry Diodona, the co-op board president, Skip Bellino, the co-founder of the Compost Club, and all the wonderful residents who basically fill their pails each day and bring them down to the composting bins there and dropping it in. They truly prove that you can compost, or in this case, recycle anything. So congratulations to the mayor and his wonderful staff, Kaz and Gray Advertising, and the commissioner and Ron and Lynn for putting together this wonderful program expanding recycling. I moved here from Seattle back just before 9/11. I was here for when the program was canceled. It was exciting to see the changes that have happened over the last few years and how far we really come in New York City to expand recycling. So congratulations again to everyone.
Marcel, thank you. And also with us this morning is Russell Germain, General Manager of the Morningside Heights Housing Corporation. Russell? There you are.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to start the speech by thanking the residents here. This is the community in which this is the perfect pilot program for. The residents here at Morningside Gardens truly care about New York City, composting, and recycling. So the introduction of this pilot program here that was brought here by Grow NYC and introduced to me through the president, Lawrence Dodona, was an important part to expand on the recycling programs of the city, and we are very happy to be a part of that. I'd like to notably thank as well Skip Delano, who through his efforts and education of our residents, through his efforts and the education of our residents is what really made this program more successful than we ever thought. Thank you very much.
Russell, thank you. Lawrence Dodona, President, Morningside Heights Housing Corporation, thank you. Let me summarize for our Spanish-speaking New Yorkers. Estamos empezando una nueva campaña para promover el reciclaje de recordar a los residentes que pueden reciclar todos los plásticos rígidos. También estamos expandiendo nuestros programas de desechos orgánicos y más partes de la ciudad. Así vamos a reducir la cantidad de basura en nuestros vertederos más de 30%. Recuerden, reciclen todo. And with that, we'll be happy to take some questions on topic. Yes. I'm sure all of the reporters want to ask questions on it. Yes, sir. Miss.
Dana Rubenstein, Capital New York. Do you think it's possible for New York City to ever achieve a recycling rate of higher than 70% like San Francisco?
Well, I don't know, but I know we can do an awful lot better, and, we don't have to worry about the end game. We can make some big progress in the next couple of years. The public really is behind this. Not everybody, but most. It's not easy. Sometimes there are problems. It depends if you live in a big building with chutes, or other than you're in a house where you have garbage cans outside. It depends if you're living in houses that have lots of space between them or houses that are contiguous. But the bottom line is we can do an awful lot better. This saves us money, and it dramatically makes the environment that our kids are going to inherit from us better. It's kind of hard to argue you shouldn't do this. Is it a little bit of work? Yeah, but everything's a little bit of work, and other cities have led the way and shown that you really can do it. New York City is so big. We send something like 22,000 tons of solid waste every single day to landfills. Got to be able to save a lot of that. Yes, miss?
Jill Colvin from The Observer. I know that you don't personally cook all that much at home, but have you experimented at all with the composting organic waste?
No, because we haven't. I don't think we've cooked a meal since we started this, to be honest with you. But we've always recycled glass and plastics and paper separate from the other things, and we'll do this. And the bullpen. Oh yes, in the bullpen we do it. Come up to the bullpen. If you're nice to Mark, he'll bring you in, and you can see. And people sometimes throw things in the wrong bucket. That's okay. And we do also at 78th Street at the Foundation Building. I don't know about the company. I haven't been down there in a long time, so I just don't know. Sir, you had a question?
The folks here seem to be very enthusiastic about this. They
That's
actually
why we
offered
came
them
here.
opportunity. What does that
It's not
say?
an accident.
But what does that say about New Yorkers in general?
New Yorkers. I've always listen. I've got to be careful how you phrase it, but New Yorkers know what's going on in the world, and they know what we're doing to our environment, and they live much more densely than in other parts of the city of the country. So they get a chance to see and talk to each other. We have much more diverse populations, so there's always somebody in the neighborhood who came from someplace else and knows what they did or didn't do elsewhere. And New Yorkers, I don't know if it's fair to say we're friendlier, but because we live together, we know each other a lot better. And I've always thought one of the great strengths of New York is not only is it one of the most diverse cities in the world, it is a city that lives as a mixture rather than a mosaic. And that gets you to share ideas, whether it's the impact of immigrants on our cuisine or our religion or our language, our clothing. I mean, everything we do, the different cultures come, and New Yorkers are cognizant of that, and they want to try new things. It's sometimes government that just doesn't have the courage. When there's a couple of people that yell and scream, everybody walks away from it, but the vast bulk of the public wants us to try new things. That's why they live in New York. New York is a competitive place. It's an exciting place. We do new things all the time. And we imported these three people who like it. No. Other questions on recycling? Yes, sir.
Judge Chelsea from the Wall Street Journal. At what point do you expect it to be in all 5 boroughs?
John?
Would it be before the end of your morality, or?
Well, there's only 155 days there. So.
As it was pointed out, we've got it on Staten Island and in different places in city schools around the city and buildings like this. But we're expanding in the fall to Brooklyn, and more expansion in Manhattan, and more expansion in the Bronx. We're going to be doing that. And then in the spring, we'll be doing more. Now, we're going to monitor that and see how it works. I mean, one thing is to see what it costs to do it and see how much people will get involved. As I pointed out before, it's only going to be a success if the people want to do it. It's so difficult for them to recycle. We've done very nicely, not as much as I like to see with metal, glass, and plastic and paper, but we got to see if we can get the same results or better results out of the food waste.
Do you have metrics that you're looking at that you want to get to a certain point to know if it's successful?
We do. I think it's too early to talk about that right now. We're just looking at one little area in Staten Island. The schools have been a success. I think the big success is going to be where you have a lot of food waste coming out of it. The private sector will probably be really a success for us with the restaurant business, and I think that's something we have to grow in New York City, and we're working on that. And then places like schools with a lot of food waste that can be collected from an economic point of view rather cheaply and address that. And then we'll see what we have to do with the homes to make sure that more people. Large buildings like this is a great, to see it work here is unbelievable, really is. I mean, when you think about high-rise buildings have always been the most difficult thing to get recycling because of you don't have the infrastructure to get the recycling material out. As the mayor pointed out, different parts of the city, different type of buildings require different operations to get it done properly. Thank you.
Yeah, I think also the question in terms of timeline, what we can do is get as much done in the next 155 days, and then hopefully what we've done, people will look at and the public will demand, or if it doesn't work, the next administration will stop it. But our job is to do as much as we can and to give the building blocks and the tools to the next administration, to give them some concrete examples of what works and what doesn't. And that's all we can get done here. You're not going to get the whole city. We have 8.4 million people. You're not going to have them all recycling, 3 million odd buildings or whatever. But we can show that it does work, and it does work in different locations, and it does work in different types of buildings and whatever. And then, it'll give the next administration the opportunity to carry on. And I've always said, I hope the next administration's better than our administration. I plan to live here the rest of my life, and you want them to do that. And it would be very satisfying to see them take what we've done and build on that and make it more valuable. Anything else on topic? If not, we'll take a question or two off topic. If anybody has any. Yes, miss.
Hi, Kristen Salumi from Al Jazeera. I'm wondering if you can respond to Bill Thompson's comments yesterday on Stop and Frisk, saying that it's institutionalized the same kind of racism and bias that led to the birth.
I just can't spend the next 155 days responding to every campaign speech. I didn't hear it, and we're just not going to respond to anything. So I don't know. What do you say?
Accusing the police department of institutional racism.
I think I don't need to defend the police department. Police department's done a pretty spectacular job. I just got the murder rates today down another week lower than the previous weeks. If people aren't happy with safe streets, I don't know what to tell you. Miss, you had a question?
Today in the New York Times, there's a story about 2 Denver politicians who are facing recall votes because of their. Is your organization?
I don't know. Funny thing is, I made myself a note to check. I certainly hope so. This is, guns this year will kill 12,000 Americans with illegal guns, and 19,000 people, mostly kids, will kill themselves with illegal handguns. We just got to stop this craziness. This is just insanity. And these 2 elected officials apparently had the courage to stand up and vote for a sensible gun law where you just have background checks to keep people with mental illnesses and mental problems, illnesses, and people with criminal records from buying guns, something that 80 and 90% even of NRA members are in favor of. We just got to get that legislation passed. Yes, sir.
Matt Ganesta, New Tong Dynasty. How do you feel about juveniles ages 16 and 17 being tried as adults, and in what circumstances?
I just not for me. It's up. The question really is, you should talk to the district attorneys who have a lot more understanding of what we should be doing. Keep in mind, if you're that age and you kill somebody, the person's still dead. And I think it depends on the crime, in my view, at what point you treat them as juveniles or at what point you treat them as adults. Also, in this day and age, remember, teenagers have an awful lot more say than they did when I grew up, and a lot more responsibility for their own actions. But you should talk to the district attorneys. Yes, miss?
You ran for election in the city 3 times. I'm curious what you think about how it's been going so far. Have you seen more debates?
The 3 times, they all went well. I was very...
Elections going now. Was there more substantive debate when you ran?
I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't be criticizing. One of the things that we are working on, and we've done this before, looking at every single campaign promise, and this one we will be, by the time we get it done, will include all 3 campaigns, every single thing that we said in speeches that we were going to get done, and categorize them, which things we got done, which things we're still working on, which things could get done but we're still waiting for Albany approval, because some things we can't do on our own, and which things turned out to either be not necessary or just dumb ideas. A lot of times we've had things we wanted to do and somebody else did it for us at a federal level or state level, or the world changed. 9/11 really changed the economics of a lot of things that we had wanted to do, we talked about before then. But we want to give the public a complete list of everything that we promised during all three of those campaigns and where they stand. And let the public then decide which things they think that the next administration should be carrying on. And I hope that that's the kind of responsible representative government I think we should have. And if I believe it, we should certainly do it and give it to you. And then what you do with that information, I don't know. I think if you look at the category of what's been done, we've done an awful lot of things. Unfortunately, what the press always focuses on is the handful of things that were not done. I can't help that. The facts are the facts, and we're going to make sure we get them out. The public has, the public here has a right to know what we've done and what we haven't done, and which things we changed our mind on, and why. Yes, Miss. Last question.
Several of the candidates are calling for mayoral control of the MTA. Is that something you ever tried to achieve?
Yeah, before 9/11, I'd actually said that I thought, given that most of what the MTA does is in the city, now it's not total because they run Long Island Railroad going out east in Nassau and Suffolk, and they run Metro North going Westchester, Rockland. After the economics changed with 9/11, I thought it was not possible. And every time I broached the idea in Albany, it is such a non-starter. I just decided that somebody else may be better at this than we were in terms of getting Albany to do it. But there's an enormous amount of business to be given out and that sort of thing. And they did not have any interest whatsoever in turning things over to us. That doesn't mean they wouldn't with another mayor or down the road. I don't know. I think you can make a good case that it should be controlled by the city because most of what it does is in the city. The part that unfortunately have to go with that is the city would have to fund it. And you're not going to get a lot of money from Albany if the city manages it, and that was after 9/11 such a non-starter that we just couldn't possibly do it. We do provide a lot to the MTA. We provide, for example, all security. The MTA has their own police department, I think, for Metro North and Long Island Railroad, but on the subways and the buses, that's New York City Police. We're doing that, and we do a lot of work with them. And I think Tom Pendergast is doing a very good job. From what I can see, he's a smart guy. I knew him before he got the top job. And I'll come back to say, I don't know, I'm not an expert on the buses. I virtually never take a bus, but I take the subways all the time. And the subways are so much better than when I came to New York City in 1966. Nobody remembers. Not air conditioned. By the time I got on at 68th Street and the time I got off, passing through Union Square, you were soaking wet. It was so hot and muggy. It was loaded with panhandlers, graffiti covered everything. You couldn't look out the windows. High crime rate. All of those things are gone. Nobody remembers any of that stuff, just how good the subway system is. And people say the buses, my girlfriend uses the buses all the time. She says they work pretty well. Anyways, thank you. This is really, there's a lot of doubting Thomases. People are always going to find reasons why you can't do anything new. But keep in mind, yes, you have the problem of making sure things don't smell. You had that when you threw it in your garbage, when you threw it in the waste. I mean, it's the same thing, only this is now going to be in a container for most people that's sealed. That's better. Yes, you have to do a little bit of work of separating out, but you're going to make a big difference down the road in the air you breathe and the economy you have for your kids and the cleanliness of our rivers and everything else. So this is something that everybody, I think, should get behind. And if you look around here, you'll see there's an awful lot of people that believe that too. Thank you very much and have a nice day.